welcome to this Tuesday's episode of the Cake DeFi Twitter space. We're doing them every Tuesday, 6:30 local Singapore time here. Main topic for today is going to be a few thoughts and comments around the relief rally we're seeing in crypto. We saw it in stocks on Thursday, Friday. Was Memorial Weekend in the US, so US stock market was closed yesterday. And so obviously it's going to be a bit interesting to see how all of this is going to continue. It's going to be quite interesting in a sense that at the moment I actually am not going to have such a strong opinion on what's going to happen on to the market, because for me this is actually more of a relief rally after 9 weeks of red weeks. And so for me, this is just more of a bit of a relief rally. But I actually could imagine that maybe technical analysis, some of the blockchain analysis, generally stuff that I'm quite critical of or skeptical of, could actually work quite well during these kind of episodes. So Fabio, welcome to the Twitter space. First of all, please share a few thoughts on your side. What do you hear? What do you see? What's going on in the community, and what do people on social say about this relief rally?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, for me, it's definitely. We talked about this a week ago that we could see a relief rally, and so 9 weeks red in a row. Never happened before. We had 6 in a row. So it's about time. The question is, does the rally have legs, and where does it end? So if you compare that to what happened in late 2018, we actually had a very similar setup. That Bitcoin broke down. We made a lower low. Exactly what happened right now. And in 2018, we had this rally back up. It was a pretty strong rally, I think, for 30 to 40%. And then I think it was the 200 moving average on the daily where we got rejected. And then we broke down and made a new lower low. And if you compare this just in historical perspective to 2018, this one could be very similar. We are like, we actually move along the last cycle pretty closely, not 100% identical. I think we are a month behind schedule. So there is a lot of influencers, especially the ones who have a little bit more of a bearish take, that feel there needs to be another lower low. There needs to be capitulation. We need to go down to the mid-20s, maybe even to 20,000. But you also see a lot of hopium out there for people that say, hey, the low is already in, the bottom is already in, we're going to move upwards from here. And I guess there is a few different strategies on how to allocate or how to deal with these scenarios. Maybe we can go into that a little bit.
Sure, let's do that. Again, I would actually appreciate today that you're going to take a lot of the lead. I actually didn't even know about that overlay 2018 to right now. But that's interesting. I'm going to take a look there. Go a bit into the strategies or a few things that you see.
Yeah, so there is a few things that were true in the past and that might be true in this time as well. So usually during times like this, and it's definitely a bearish time, we have fear and greed at 10 or at 12 or something like that. So definitely on the lower levels. And usually when the whole market is moving sidewards or downwards, even if there is a relief rally, Bitcoin usually performs a little bit better than the altcoins. And we saw some heavy stuff happening in a few altcoins. Like there is Solana, I think, down more than 70%. Cardano definitely took a hit, recovered quite a bit actually during the last 24 hours. And lots of other altcoins, like for example, Celsius token, or I don't know, X Infinity, that really took a strong hit. It's very difficult to allocate capital in these times, because when you have 2 bets. So you're speculating that this is a relief rally, and we're going up to, I don't know, maybe 40, could go even a little bit higher than that, or that the bottom is already in and the rally actually has legs and we are moving into the direction of all-time highs. As we touched last week, like my theory is probably more on the bearish side, that this will take some time, that there probably very likely will be a strong rally that lures in a lot of investors that think, okay, maybe the bottom is actually in, maybe we are going to move sideways, and they reallocate their capital, or they try to, let's say, buy the dip, and afterwards we have the dip of the dip. That's usually a thing in crypto. So I tend to favor the scenario where this actually is a relief rally, and we're bound to see a little bit of lower lows. At least I try to manage my expectations. I can always be surprised to the other side. So most of our customers, and myself included, I'm a hodler. I haven't sold anything of my hodling position, and I allocated my capital to survive the next maybe 1 to 2 years. Could be even a little bit longer than that if we when we actually move into the direction of all-time highs. But just manage your expectations, because in the worst case scenario, there's two years of sideways and downwards or boring price action. And if this is the most likely outcome, or or my expectations, then everything else can only surprise me in a positive direction. What are your expectations over the next year? I think you mentioned a little bit on Twitter that 2022 doesn't look like it's going to be a super exciting year.
Yeah, a couple of points. So Cake DeFi Treasury also all-time high now in Bitcoin holdings, in Ethereum holdings, and in DeFi chain holdings. I also posted that on Twitter, but with that big caveat, also what you mentioned, we do have non-crypto related assets for at least 3 to 4 years. So even if crypto would really dip, we would have enough runway. I mean, there wasn't a single crash or recession or something in the past 120 years that recovered in a shorter time than 2 years, except for when the Fed stepped in. So whenever the Fed actually aggressively stepped in, then obviously the fastest kind of V-shaped recovery we all experienced in 2020 with COVID. But other than that, if the Fed just said, you know, let's have the market kind of rattle it out, or sometimes the Fed actually tried to step in, and it still didn't work out, there was not a single recession that turned around within 2 years. The reason I want to point this out is I think that people kind of look at this crash in crypto and compare to 2018, when it could be a kind of repetition of 2018. I don't want to deny that. However, the reasons for the crash, in my opinion, are completely different. 2018 had a lot to do with crypto-specific ICO hypes, where right now it has a lot to do with the general kind of sentiment, and we could go into a recession. We discussed this in the last episode. So if we're actually going into a recession, and if the Fed actually is going to struggle to really kind of lower interest rates, print money, boost the entire economy, we all actually need to be sitting here and not expecting much from 2021, 2022. That would be absolutely expected. So this has nothing to do with a worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is don't expect anything for the entire decade. So, I mean, you should be sitting here and saying, that's it. Like, there's going to be no significant price increases over the next 10 years. That's kind of the worst case kind of expectation. You can listen to the episode from last week. I kind of walked through a couple of the crashes in my basic history lesson that I have received over the last 100 years. And it's quite shocking how long some of those recessions lasted, and how long it took sometimes for prices to really recover. So I do think that actually people right now have a completely distorted expectation on how long it may take when prices recover. And that is also why people are way too nervous about buying the dip and then buying the next dip and buying the next dip. What I would highly recommend, and it's exactly the same thing that we did at Cake now, is you start buying. But it's not like you going all in right now. It's you taking some of those funds and you get a little bit more extra exposure. Prices are insanely cheap at the moment. The question then just becomes, when do prices again become expensive? Is this going to take 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Maybe it's going to take 5 months. It's unlikely that it's 5 months. It's probably going to take a bit longer. And so the key thing just here is, I think it's a great time to start getting exposure without forgetting that this is probably going to take quite some time until you actually going to be able to cash in on those purchases right now. And then in between, for example, at Cake, we don't look at daily prices. For us, it's totally irrelevant if Bitcoin now goes down to 20,000. We couldn't care less. We may actually use that opportunity to buy more, but that doesn't make us nervous. That doesn't there's nothing like, oh no, we bought Bitcoin at 30,000. We should have waited until 20,000. We couldn't have cared less. And so that is, I think, something that's just really important. I want to point out here in the way we kind of approach this. It's just it's all about time horizon here. And I actually agree with you here. I do think this is a bit of a fake out relief rally. I don't see the reason why there should be a proper relief rally now. Stock futures have turned red already, so maybe the crypto market are going to follow and we're going to see a dip back down again. I hope we have a green week and we don't go into a tense kind of red week, but yeah, I'm not all too optimistic. I don't know. What other thoughts you have?
Yeah, maybe something crazy to consider, a wild theory, but there was talks more the last 2 years than this year that we kind of see this strong correlation between the Nasdaq and Bitcoin or crypto in general. It's treated as a risk on asset. So and the correlation is actually as high as it ever has been. So if general markets move up, Bitcoin moves up. So all or crypto in general is strongly correlated with other risk-on assets. But there is this one but. We actually don't know how Bitcoin or crypto is performing during a proper recession. We had these liquidity events like in March 2020, where everything sold off. Gold sold off, Bitcoin sold off, all risk-on assets. The same thing happened when the war between Russia and Ukraine started. Everything sold off because there's just a major panic. But probably a large majority of people would agree that Bitcoin is a risk-on asset and it's strongly correlated with the Nasdaq. But there is this small but. As gold didn't actually do anything in the past month. It's more or less moving sideways. It had its run up in 2020, and since then it's struggling to take out its old highs. And even though we see a lot of inflation and gold is actually this inflation hedge, we see certain things happening. So even in the great financial crisis of 2018, gold took a severe hit when the crisis started and started to perform a little bit later. And we actually don't know if this could be true for Bitcoin as a safe haven asset. I know this narrative is completely neglected and it's not on the table anymore, but Bitcoin never experienced a proper recession, a prolonged recession. And I feel in the beginning, there is this liquidity that dries up. And of course, everything will suffer. Gold will suffer, risk-on assets will suffer, and crypto as well. But I guess there is a small possibility that we could see a decoupling in a prolonged recession. What do you think? Is there any validity to this, or do you feel this is a kind of impossible to see this decoupling?
I mean, for the decoupling to happen, I think the trust and the faith that people have, for example, in Bitcoin, would really have to be, you know what? Let's do an exception here. I'm gonna get MMCrypto in. How do I do that actually? Hey, Chris, can you ask to speak? Would be interesting to get your view on that.
Yeah, he's in. He's in.
I don't know how to add MMCrypto here. Because I'm not a co-host, Fabio. I think you would have to do it.
Yeah, he's connecting.
Okay, cool. I mean, one key question I just want to put in. For this, in my opinion, to happen, that there would be this decoupling, I would ask this question: how much trust, how much faith would there have to be in Bitcoin in comparison to gold? And I still think Bitcoin is increasing in popularity and it's becoming better and better and better. But then there's still, I still think so many more people fundamentally trust gold than Bitcoin. This can change, and it probably will change over the next years, so probably a decade or two. But I'm just not expecting much of that in the next 1 or 2 years. Chris, we have you on. Hey, awesome. What a surprise. What do you think? Do you think that's a fake out relief rally, what we're seeing here right now? Do you think that rally has legs? What are your expectations here?
Hey, my man, thanks for letting me in. Thanks for this exception. I just thought I'll raise my hand and see what happens. Happy to be here. Cake community, host community, good to talk here. Very hard to answer your question. I wanted to come back to the issue we talked about before, like Fabio and you, whether we will see this decoupling or not. And I think that Bitcoin is maybe not negatively or not positively correlated with the Nasdaq or Dow Jones. It's more correlating with the dollar index, right? I mean, whenever we are seeing these crises or fear and people are selling their stocks, they are basically selling it to get US dollar, because whenever this is happening, everyone rushes into US dollar. And the same thing is happening with Bitcoin. So I think the causality more goes to the dollar index. And then if you think about this, then I think long term we can see a decoupling, but short term Bitcoin is always going to go down when stocks are going to go down, and like commodities, everything tanks whenever we are seeing something like a Black Thursday event. But long term, as trust in the US dollar decreases, eventually we will have to see a decoupling. And I truly believe so. But I think we are all, as crypto people, including me, we are not patient enough. We want this to happen today or next week, and it's just going to take much more time.
Where do you think is going to be this max pain? Where like that I don't know, the market kind of philosophy always is like markets will have to go through max pain, and that's kind of the most likely route. And it's gonna like at the end, the market for some weird reason always tries to kind of inflict all this max pain into so many people. What do you think this is gonna like? What do you think this is gonna look like?
I think we didn't reach max pain yet, even though I'm always bullish, right? I'm myself betting on higher prices. But honestly, if I think about the last max pain moments, which was March 2020, November 2018, I mean, we had like on Celsius and everywhere people with loans being liquidated. We had altcoins being down 98, 99%. Now we still have NFT collections with billions of dollars of valuation. And I don't see that this max pain is reached yet. I myself didn't reach it for sure, because my portfolio just decreased by like 50% because of Bitcoin, right? But 50% down is nothing after Bitcoin is going up like 20x. So it's still 10x up from the last low. So I don't think we have reached max pain yet, but it doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin is going to get punished severely more and that we go below 20K or something. It just means that altcoins have maybe a little bit more downside, and specifically NFTs also.
Did you participate in Luna at all? I saw a couple of tweets from Carl and you as well, that you're like, I'm going in, and then Carl was posting, I'm going in, and then I think he completely wrote it off, and I think you at some point also kind of wrote it off.
No,
What was
actually,
your
I never owned Luna, and I just made like a joke long position, but it's like worth 3 dinners or something. It was just like as a joke. My tweets about Luna were just, it was a very trending topic. And of course, I know I have like 960,000 followers on Twitter. And if everyone is interested in that, I want to talk about it. I want to give the people what they want. So I tweeted about it a little bit as some kind of therapy for the people who lost money there, which is obviously very unfortunate. But I did not lose these millions of dollars in Luna, which other people unfortunately did. I actually was FOMOing a little bit on the way up, but I always thought, you know what, late to the party, not going to risk my Bitcoin. And I regret it time after time at every double. But in the end of the day, I was happy that I didn't FOMO in. FOMO is usually not a good decision anyways.
when you're gonna hit the million? I saw it on your on your account. When
Yeah.
it's absolutely insane to see your Twitter growth and the Twitter journey. It's really impressive. Congrats. When you're
Thanks.
gonna hit the million?
I mean, there are some days where I get 5K followers and some days where I just get a few hundred when I'm more lazy. So I would say maybe in June. But man, I have to give a shout out to you. I remember I was in Frankfurt. I was your community manager. And I went to Frankfurt. I said, hey, Julian, maybe I should open my own channel. What do you think? You said, yeah, do it, do it. because you inspire. You were a big part of my inspiration, and I started afterwards. It went very slow, but as always, there's an S curve, and eventually things took off. And yeah, it's also credits to you. You inspired me.
Man, I appreciate that. What do you think? Like, what do you think was your success? I mean, comparing like how you did your YouTube channel, how I did mine. I mean, obviously you focused on English, which I think was probably the tougher start, but at the end, by far the right decision. I don't know if you'd agree with this. What other kind of reflection points would you have in what made your YouTube channel and everything that you do in crypto blow up so much?
Well, obviously, usually if you start with English, you have very small fish in a huge ocean. And if you start with German, the ocean is smaller. It's easier to take it over. You definitely took over whole Germany. I think you're the biggest one there. And even now internationally, like so many people know you. I talk with friends who are not German and they know you also. So it's never too late to switch, right? But I think the most important thing was persistence, because I remember in the beginning, I talked to no one, and then like prices went down, views went down. I literally 12 months, I didn't earn even a cent from it, right? It was just my own investments, very small investments, small trades. And the business around YouTube just took off much later. And I think that's the period where people are shaken out. And that's where like, it's like a test. You should not give up. You should continue, because it's you plant a seed, right, and then you water it, and nothing happens all the time. But beneath the surface, the roots are spreading. But if you stop before the seed explodes and the tree starts growing, then all of this work was in vain. And I just continued because I knew eventually things are gonna work out, and happily it did.
Yeah, I mean, really well done. I still remember, I can't remember, I think this was in 2017, 18. You were in Singapore. We had sushi together, Carl and yourself.
Yeah.
And you were just at that point, I couldn't believe it. Like the momentum you guys had was just absolutely insane. I think this was like 4, maybe 5 years ago. And it was just absolutely bonkers to see that momentum that you guys were having. It was insane.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, man, but you too. I mean, you yourself, you had on the way where you are now, you had failures, setbacks, and you always came back. And I just looked at Cake. It's insane how you performed, like throughout the last few months. It is a good performance, really. If you compare it with other altcoins, I think you did a great job. And it was probably not so pleasurable for a long period of time, but now things are finally working out, and that's great to see.
Always ups and downs, man. Always ups and downs. Yeah. How do you perceive the bear market right now in comparison to 4 years ago, 2018? Do you think it's easier for you because you've gone through with it already back then? Do you think it's easier because we haven't seen this Max Payne yet?
Mm.
Or I'm actually wrong and you're actually feeling quite hard in comparison to 2018? Or how do you kind of compare those two?
No, I think it gets easier every time, right? I mean, the first time is the scariest, but once you live through it, then it gets easier. And that's the case for me. I already lived through like bear cycles 2 times. That's the third time, and I'm not even having a portfolio tracker anymore. I mean, I don't know my net worth. I don't know exactly how much I own. The only thing I know is where do I have my private keys and everything. But any other than that, like if the market tanks 20-30%, I don't exactly know how much I'm losing theoretically there in unrealized profits. So I'm very calm. I think I'm very neutral towards any movement up or down. Of course, if I'm having a trade open and the price goes up, I'm happy. If the price goes down, I'm not happy. But these trades are so small compared to the portfolio, which should be the case for everyone trading.
Would
Do you
you
think?
say,
So Fabio, go for it.
yeah, would you say this is true for your community as well, that people are calm or complacent, or is there a sense of panic or frustration or anger?
I would say I mean, it's still for a big part, and it's not a demeaning term, but it's for a big part, of course, a retail audience, because it's many people who are still working, right, and or like a lot of new money, young people. So obviously, there's gonna be emotions involved. There's gonna be fear. There's gonna be greed, and you can't really get this out. But I think because of my like positive content and of course I focus on the short term and the price, but I always have most of the time I have a section in the video towards the end where I'm talking about the long-term trajectory, that hodling is key, that Bitcoin is going to go up in the long term anyways. And I think in comparison, my community is pretty level-headed, I would say. But obviously, there's always going to be emotions involved. I mean, I'm on in my videos, I talk 95% Bitcoin, I think, then sometimes Ethereum, and sometimes like it's so rare about any other project. So if the portfolio would look like the content I'm doing, then people should be almost only exposed to Bitcoin, and then maybe a little bit of Ethereum, maybe a little bit of altcoin, maybe like 2% in NFTs or something. And then it's not even that apocalyptic, right? I mean, we went from 69 to 26 or something. Not the worst, right?
Do you sometimes think, I mean, when people listen to you here, I think what you're saying is super rational, and I think everyone would be nodding and be like, yeah, this makes so much sense. Do you think that people actually do have that kind of picture of you, or do they think that you're this really crazy gambler where it's like, oh man, let's YOLO everything that I own on this one trade right now. We're gonna use a 10x leverage and I'm gonna get rich with this. Or do you actually think people actually do know how? Because I mean, we met, we've worked together. I know how smart, calculated, patient, yeah, how you approach things, maybe sometimes a bit different than, I don't know, maybe someone actually out there perceives you. But what is your kind of idea on that? Is that on purpose, or do you think people just judge you the way sometimes you are with focusing on the trading, or how do you see that for yourself?
No, there is definitely some divergence between who I am or what I do, what I say, even in my content, than what maybe the majority perceives, because my titles, my thumbnails are very extreme, right? I'm screaming in the thumbnail. I'm having 12 exclamation marks in my title, and it seems like, wow, my title might be Bitcoin all in, but obviously that's emotional to make YouTube understand, wow, I should push this more, I should give more impressions, because the click-through rate will be higher if I make it very emotional. And my purpose eventually is to reach the most amount of people. And I think title and thumbnail on a YouTube video are like a box of chocolates, like Forrest Gump would say. You want to make it beautiful and appealing. If the chocolate inside is very amazing, you want to make the box very beautiful. Otherwise, no one is going to open it and eat it. But eventually, of course, some people are not opening the box of chocolates. They're not going to try the chocolates inside, and they're going to judge the book by its cover, or the box of chocolates by its cover. And that's happening sometimes. Whoever just sees and eventually everyone on YouTube sees my face and my titles, sees that, doesn't click, and the title says Bitcoin all in, but then in the video I'm saying, hey, of course I'm not all in, it's not recommended for everyone, I'm thinking long term, then the perception might be a little bit different to what I'm saying. But that is the case. Everyone who clicks the video, of course, gets the right message. But yeah, I'm aware of that, and it is a little bit on purpose. If I find a better way to make it not so much diverging, I would do it, but so far I didn't find the way.
I made a video, I think it's maybe, I can't remember, 2 or 3 years ago, where I talk about how difficult hodling is if you're not really deep in the industry, because so many times you get insecure about things, you don't know the ins and outs anymore, and then you feel like, Bitcoin price is dropping, I need to sell right now because I heard on the news or somewhere that the price was going to go even lower. And then my statement there was, one of the, I don't know, like smartest things for myself that I did was actually work in that industry. And I don't know, how do you see that? Do you feel that being an influencer, obviously having to kind of really research and understand what's going on, talking to so many people, speaking at conferences, do you think that automatically also gives you a better chance in succeeding as an investor because you really notice stuff, you're in it, you talk it all the time? Or do you actually think being the influencer actually keeps you from being a better investor because you have to spend so much time on the actual kind of media work, and it doesn't give you enough time on the investing side of things?
No, I would say in general, it makes me definitely a better investor for a few different reasons. My Bitcoin investment strategy is simply just either getting paid in Bitcoin. If not, I'm gonna put it into Bitcoin and then just hold no matter what. I don't try to sell the bottom. I know you did it a few times with success, like selling high, buying low, but I'm just holding. I'm not doing anything. So this performance is set, right? I mean, if I'm not doing anything, whether I'm doing YouTube or not doing anything gives you always the same outcome. On the other side, sometimes maybe I'm investing in private sales. That's of course deal flow I would not get without being an influencer or having my personal brand. So that definitely gives me opportunities I would not have in the first place. So I would say overall, definitely it's beneficial.
Cool. What's going on in your personal life? What do you want to share? What's happening outside of crypto?
I mean, when the prices go down, I usually escape into nature. So now I'm here in the middle of Ibiza, surrounded by trees. I have a pool, a gym. I enjoy the nature. I had some rough time recently, so I'm really calming down. Still doing content, of course, doing a lot of sport, meditation, and all the good stuff. So I think that's always good to go back to nature. I mean, you live in Singapore, I live in Dubai. You probably know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's just really nice to get out into the green.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and so before you were in Mallorca when you sent me the picture with Marcus, and then now you're in Ibiza. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. I'll drop you a WhatsApp afterwards. Let's catch up.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be nice. Cool. Hey Chris. Yeah. Any kind of parting wisdom from your side for and I mean obviously at Cake people are generally hodlers. There's not so much fewer traders because yeah it's just kind of a lot of kind of the sentiment that we've built up. Any kind of like I don't know, parting wisdom for the people from everything that you see at the moment?
I would say one very easy thing is, I mean, I'm not even having a portfolio tracker. Most of the people watching, if someone asks them, why are you buying Bitcoin? They would usually, and for the good reasons, rant about the US dollar, say, I'm escaping the US dollar, I want to get out. So if that's the case, if you are buying Bitcoin to escape US dollar, then the price denominated in US dollar should not make you sad. If you have 0.5 Bitcoin and the price goes down 50%, you still have 0.5 Bitcoin. So maybe look in your portfolio denominated in Bitcoin, not in US dollar. And that will help you a little bit focusing on the long term. That's what I did. And it's really calming.
Cool.
Yeah.
Chris, man, hey, really appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Super nice. Yeah. That was really, really awesome. I don't have actually much else to share. I'm gonna actually take my son to bed now. Fabio, is there anything that we need to add here? Because otherwise I would just love to leave it at that. I think this was super nice what Chris did here. This was super spontaneous. Just want to mention here, there was nothing agreed. Normally we don't take people on the stage here. But I felt this was just super fitting.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Maybe just to double down on a point that Chris mentioned, crypto has this like a seemingly high barrier to entry, and you, Julian, talked about it, and Chris mentioned it as well. To go full-time crypto to work in this industry, for some this seems like an unachievable step, but like Chris just shared. It's not easy, especially to become a big influencers like both of you guys are. It's a lot of grinding and a lot of work, but there is a lot of opportunities if you bring a skill set with you. If you know programming, if you know graphical design, if you're a copywriter, if you just been in this space for years, you probably know a lot. And there is so many different kinds of work that is suited for almost everybody. So maybe just to finish this off, but I initially, when I came to Cake 2 years ago, I came as a customer supporter and with no background in cryptography or anything. But there is this: if you want to start to produce content or write articles or make videos or whatever, if you want to start working for a crypto company, now is the best time during bear markets like these where there is not a lot of hype. Just try, push out a few applications. And hey, we're hiring at Cake. So cakedefi.com/jobs. There is, I think, 15 to 20 open jobs that you can apply to. and or hey, maybe you want to go the same route as Chris and Julian and start to do valuable content in crypto. Yeah.
Love it. Thanks so much, Fabio. Chris, hey, really appreciate it, brother. Awesome. I'll drop you a WhatsApp afterwards. We connect. Yeah, want to hear a bit about your personal stuff. So cool.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah, keep being awesome. And we'll talk next week. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.